Do you ever wonder how some people are just so annoyingly happy in the mornings? Or if they're part of a secret society of early birds that gives them that extra pep in their step? If you had asked me if I were a morning person in high school or college, I would have said, no way in hell, to put it lightly. But I'm grateful that in my adult life, I have truly become a person who not only wakes up early, but actually enjoys it. One big secret that I learned along the way, it's less about forcing yourself to wake up early and more about crafting mornings and days ahead that you can really truly wake up looking forward to. So today I wanted to share my realistic guide to becoming a morning person as someone who used to struggle with mornings before. We'll talk about mindset, building a routine, or even building multiple routines and why that's important, and why your routine may shift depending on the season of life that you're in or simply just depending on the seasons. Before we get into today's episode topic, we're going to do a little create and consume as we do at the start of every episode. So, as far as what I have been creating this week, there is now a post up on my blog that is in partnership with Dove, which is so exciting for me. I think this is my third time partnering with Dove, but my first time working with them over on my blog. And the concept that I pitched for their holiday collection was why it makes like the perfect white elephant gift. So in this blog post, we talk all about holiday traditions and how traditions can change over the years. We talk about White Elephant and the rules of the game. And if you do choose to give Dove products in your White Elephant gift exchange, I also gave some ideas for cute little bundles you can put together and similar items that you can pair those products with, and also some fun little sayings that you could put inside a card. I think my personal favorite was Bark the Herald Angels Sing, Glory to the Peppermint King, because Dove has this peppermint bark hand soap, which is actually in our guest bath right now. Like, I have been using it for the last few weeks, and it literally smells so good. When I first saw that one, I thought it was going to be more on the minty side, but it actually smells like white chocolate. If you've ever had peppermint bark, that's actually my favorite little holiday treat. You already know what it smells like, and it's actually a really like rich and soothing texture. So yeah, that's the hand soap that's been in our guest bathroom, and it's green, so it goes perfectly. That's what I've been working on for the last week. That appears to be my last partnership for the year, so it feels good to kind of wind down from there and focus on some other parts of my business as well. And then as far as what I've been consuming this week, I think I can talk about Stranger Things now. And if you haven't had a chance to watch yet, go watch, literally. Like, this is one of those shows where every time I hear there's a new season coming out, I'm like, it's been so long since the last season, I can't remember anything. Actually, I am going to link in the show notes for this episode the video that I watched that recapped seasons 1 through 4 in like less than 20 minutes. This creator did such a good job recapping everything. He showed scenes of what was going on. He helped like piece things together. And so I went into season 5, episode 1, feeling like I actually now remembered what got us to this point. If you didn't get a chance to rewatch the first 4 seasons because you don't have, however many 30 extra hours to spare, totally understandable. I really recommend this YouTube video. I think it was less than 20 minutes. But oh my God, now that the first 4 episodes are out, I am dying to know how this is all going to end. And if you didn't get a chance to watch season 5, episode 4, that may be one of my favorite episodes of TV that I've seen in a while. That is up there with like just something that I am going to remember watching for a long time. Like, I was gasping all throughout it. I wasn't totally sure where we were going. And the very last shot at the end was just so satisfying as a viewer. Let me know if you guys are also watching Stranger Things, or if you're not watching Stranger Things, tell me what you guys are consuming and creating. All of the ways to get in touch are always in the show notes, and I like to know what everyone is working on. With that being said, let's get into today's topic, all about becoming a morning person. And I feel like when we talk about starting to like mornings or getting to the point where you do feel like a morning person when you're not one currently, the very first thing that I wanted to talk about is the motivation and the mindset behind how you wake up. Because the physical stuff is a little bit harder, to have to actually like get into the habit of waking up a little bit earlier and getting yourself up in the morning is one thing. But if you can get your mindset right before you even go to bed the night before, you're going to set yourself up for success so much more easily. When we think about the night before prep and the mindset behind it, I really think it's just a matter of telling yourself a few little key things that are going to remind you when you first open your eyes why you're excited to open your eyes and what the intentions are for the day ahead. And it can be a really small little commitment or a little affirmation or thing that you say to yourself. So just to give you a couple of examples, you could say to yourself the night before, I am actually going to get up, get out of bed as soon as my alarm goes off. That's one little commitment or promise you can make to yourself so that when you open your eyes, you're like, oh, remember what I said yesterday? We're actually going to get up right now. And if you need a little bit of extra motivation, maybe you want to say, when I get up tomorrow morning, the first thing I'm going to do is go straight to my kitchen and turn on the coffee maker. Or you could say, when I get up in the morning, I am going to put on the workout set that I laid out for myself the night before. And that way, when you're already dressed and in your workout set, you're so much more likely to actually follow through on working out than if you stayed in your pajamas for an extra 20 minutes. So that's why I do find it really helpful to focus on even like one small thing. Pick one of those three that I just said to start out. And then once you master this, you can take it a step further and plan out what your day is actually going to look like right after you wake up. So that way you know what's ahead for the day and you can mentally prepare. For me, being self-employed, my days serve lots of different purposes. So if I go to bed knowing that I'm planning to record a bunch of different podcast episodes the next day, which, hello, that's actually what I'm doing today, that helps me before I've even woken up to know what my focus is going to be later on in the day versus if I was planning to have a lazy, cozy admin day. So for example, today is Monday morning. I got up and did my Peloton workout. I typically like to work out 3 times a week, and it's my preference to do it right when I wake up because if I push it back to later in the day, there's always something else, whether it's a work event or just the fact that I'm tired or that I have to make dinner or that I worked right up until the second Andrew came home, that then I don't really feel like doing it later in the day. So it's always better for me to kind of just get it over with. And because I knew this was a podcast batching day, I got up, did my workout, showered, and then I took my coffee over to my makeup vanity and started getting ready right away so that I could be sitting here at 10 a.m. to record the first episode of the day. And like I mentioned earlier, the way that you end the day before can help set the tone for the next day. So you probably already know what I'm going to say here, but if you can limit your screen time or scrolling before bed, that is also obviously going to help in terms of your focus and your ability to fall asleep and get a good night's sleep. So if you find that you've been scrolling a lot more than usual right before bed, I personally recommend swapping it out for, if you still need like a little bit of stimulation or something to fall asleep, maybe just choosing to do a podcast so you can listen to the audio rather than have to look at a screen. Or you could also read a book. So that way you're still engaged, your eyes are busy and your hands are busy, but they're not busy with your phone. That way, when you actually go to wake up in the morning, you've already done kind of a little bit of the groundwork for the next day. You already know what type of day is ahead for you. You already know what the first thing you're going to do when you open your eyes is, and eliminating those questions and having a routine in place like that can help make sure that you actually follow through on things. And then obviously once you get a routine down and continue to repeat it, it gets easier and easier each day that you do it. And I personally also think that the mindset really does matter more than the time on the clock, because I think that we put a lot of association and meaning into the time on our clock, which is in some ways, something that we've all always had. But in other ways, it's kind of crazy to think about, like, we as a society just one day decided to put numbers to our day. And yes, that makes it so much easier to like meet up with friends. We're going to meet at 6 o'clock, not just like we're going to meet at sundown right as the sun dips below the horizon. Like that could mean different things to different people. That could vary depending on where you live, what time of year it is. Obviously, having a clock and being able to schedule things helps. But I think that even just for me, thinking about waking up when it's light out versus when it's dark out is something that in my ideal world, I like to wake up when it's already light out or right as the sun is coming up. I really like to be aligned with what's going on in nature in that way. But in the winter months, if I did that, I would be waking up so much later. And it's something that I just have to rewire my brain to say, like, okay, we're getting up at the same time, even though it's dark outside right now. And when I classify myself as a morning person, I'm not like a crazy morning person, okay? I'm not getting up at 4 a.m. I'm not going to the gym for 2 hours. I'm not saving the world before anyone else has even opened their eyes. Because also getting up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m., That doesn't necessarily make you a morning person, especially if you don't do anything productive with that extra time that you're not sleeping. You can drag yourself out of bed at 5 a.m., but if all you do is sit on your phone and scroll until it's 7:30 and it's time to start getting ready for work, that really wasn't a productive way to spend your morning. You can also be a morning person who wakes up at 8 a.m. and is truly excited to get up and embrace the day. So I don't want to fixate too much on time here because that's also going to look so different for everybody depending on what stage of life they're in. And even though the actual number of the hour of when you wake up doesn't matter too much as long as you give yourself enough time to get to where you need to be on time, I will say that when you can embrace the earlier hours of the day, you are going to get more quiet, focused hours with fewer distractions. I think some people can have this on the end of their day too, but for me, I am just always so much more tired at the end of the day. Like, I am so much more likely to be productive, be focused, and get things done when I tackle them first thing in the morning than if I do after I've already lived a whole life that day and I'm crawling into bed at like 9:30 or whatever, and then I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe it. Now I still have to like answer this email or think about this thing. Like, that's when my brain prefers to wind down. And your energy right from the moment you open your eyes can really dictate your energy for the rest of the day. And if something like caffeine or working out isn't enough to motivate you, I also think that taking a little bit of time to practice gratitude can also be a great way to both wind down at the end of the day and also start your days in the morning. Waking up early becomes easier when it's tied to positive emotions and associations, and the perspective is easy for us to lose when we're just focused on the stressors of everyday life. If when you open your eyes, you're just feeling really tired and overwhelmed in the morning, I recommend even just thinking about one little thing that you're grateful for. A few that I like to think about in case you need any motivation: I am grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for my home. I'm grateful for my job. And if some of those things are in flux for you right now, it can be something really surface level and really tiny that still brings you joy. You could be grateful for your coffee in the morning. You could be grateful for your skincare routine. I'm grateful that I got my nails done over a week ago and they still look pretty decent. Like, I don't have to redo them yet. I'm grateful that the water in my Stanley is nice and ice cold today, exactly how I like it. Those are obviously super niche little things that are just tiny little sparks of joy that overall can help add up and make my day better. But even giving those little things a bit of attention and acknowledgement can really help with your attitude. Again, not even just in the mornings, but throughout the entire day too. And I think about that all the time, especially now in a world post pandemic where for so long we couldn't even get together with friends and family, or we couldn't go to workout classes, or we couldn't take public transit. Like, every time I get to do all of those things, I feel so grateful just to be living normal life because I also lived through such an abnormal time as we all did. And it's like April 2020 Austin would have killed to be able to just like ride the subway like normal. So even when I get on the subway and it's super packed this time of year, it's like, I'm so grateful to live in a city with public transportation where I can get anywhere for just a couple dollars. I know they're increasing it in January, but whatever it is right now. And I'm so grateful that I can walk. I'm so grateful that I can hold on to the railing. I'm so grateful that I could be vlogging even at the same time. And like, part of that's considered work for me. So shifting from I have to I get to is another really helpful way to phrase all of the things that you're grateful for and approach your mornings. Let's now move into talking about building a morning routine that works for you, because once your mindset helps you get clear on why and what you're looking forward to in your day-to-day and in your life in general, then you can start working backwards and actually building a morning routine to get specific about the what. And again, over the years, as I've been someone now who really looks forward to mornings, I will say that waking up earlier, and again, it doesn't have to be at 4 a.m, but even a little bit earlier from when you were typically waking up or when you have been waking up into this point, if you're trying to get a new morning routine, can really be a big game changer. Again, I mentioned this earlier, but like, number one, just less noise from the world outside, both mentally and literally. Although for some reason today, they did start some construction outside around 6:30, like shortly after I opened my eyes. but I think they're technically supposed to wait till 8 a.m. So, in an ideal world, stuff like that, right? Construction and lawnmowers and things like that can't really start until after a certain time. This is also a reason I like living on the East Coast is sometimes it gives me a chance to get ahead on my inbox. Also, sometimes like today is Monday morning, I actually took some time yesterday, Sunday night, to go through my inbox and schedule out some emails to go out today at 8 a.m. I just like having that extra little bit of time to get ahead on things and set myself up for success the next day so that I didn't see a ton of emails in my inbox this morning. I only saw whatever came in overnight that I still need to respond to. But also, I live on the East Coast, and in my industry, I feel like most people are either based in New York, so kind of on the same wavelength as me, or in Los Angeles. So again, if I am able to reply to things first thing in the morning, if someone's on the West Coast, they'll then see that when they wake up, but I can feel good knowing that I've already responded to that in a sense. I think I would get a little stressed out if I did live on the West Coast. Like, even if I woke up at 6 a.m. or whatever, if I lived in LA, I feel like then it would already be 9 a.m. here, and anyone who is an early bird as well would already have been able to get a couple things off the ground by that point. I guess that's not really helpful or related. It's just something I was thinking about, how in my head, being on the East Coast is helpful for me personally in terms of being kind of the first in the country, I guess, to like wake up and be able to tackle my inbox. But going back to why waking up earlier is a game changer, one of the big reasons that I do like to wake up a little bit earlier than when I used to wake up back in, college or when I first started working is that I'm able to get some true uninterrupted time to myself, even if it's just 5 or 10 minutes. And obviously, this can change depending on your situation. If you have kids, if you live at home, if you have a partner, all of these different things. And I obviously love living with Andrew. We've lived together for 6 years now. We've been married for 2. But even getting 5 to 10 minutes just to myself makes me a better partner to him when he first wakes up, or it gives me that little bit of extra time to wake up so then that I can be in a good mood before he leaves for work or whatever the case is. And depending on the days that I get up, some days I get up and I have a whole hour before he wakes up. Some days I get up and I only have like 10 or 15 minutes before he wakes up. So again, like if you have kids or you have other responsibilities or you have to be at work super early, even waking up a tiny bit earlier, even giving yourself an extra 5 minutes to, I don't know, do red light therapy or your skincare routine or whatever it is, having a few minutes of that uninterrupted alone time, if it's possible for you to prioritize that, I personally feel like really helps set the tone and the vibe for the rest of the day. And it's one of the things that makes me a morning person, is knowing that I'm going to like wake up, have my coffee, sit, do my Wordle, whatever it is. And think about how that quiet time in the early part of the morning can help support your whatever creativity, wellness, productivity, whichever is most important to you as you start your day. Now, as we build out a morning routine, I personally find it helpful to brainstorm some core pillars of your morning routine, which are like the backbone of your routine, the things that you really try to commit to doing even on your busiest, most stressful days. Think of them essentially as the non-negotiable things that make you feel grounded wherever you are. Just to give you a couple of examples, I wrote down some of the core pillars of my morning routine, and I think these are general enough that they can apply to most people too, and you maybe just like tweak them a little bit to get them to what makes the most sense for you. So for me, wake up time consistency is really big. Again, it doesn't have to be 5 in the morning, but it should be a time that you can commit to waking up consistently at each day. Our bodies love patterns. That's why I personally turned into a miserable demon monster during daylight savings. And maybe you can relate to that because it shakes up the pattern. It messes with the consistent vibe of what you've already been doing. It kind of throws a wrench into the plans and disrupts stuff. So that's why even trying to maintain your patterns as much as possible, even through changes like daylight savings or traveling or whatever might be disrupting your routine on any given week, is really important to try to maintain a little bit of that sense of consistency. Another one of my core pillars is to make the bed. And once you make the bed, you've accomplished the first task of the day. It's a really quick win that sets you up for success and helps you continue to build on that momentum and get more done. And, for me, it may not be the exact first task of the day. Obviously, if I wake up before Andrew, I have to wait until he gets up to make the bed. But even just the thought of putting all of the sheets in place, putting the pillows upright so that you're not tempted to get back into bed, if that's something that you tend to do a lot, it's just a really strong visual cue. Like, nope, the bed is made right now. We're done here for the moment. If you want to go sit somewhere else, go sit at the kitchen table, go sit on the couch, go sit at your office desk, wherever it is. But I really like a quick win, like making the bed, because I feel like it helps just get the day rolling. Once you do one task, all of the other tasks become really easy to snowball on top of that because you've already got that kind of energy going for the rest of the day. And even when traveling, obviously I don't really do it like at hotels because they're going to do it so much better than I could do it. But a few weeks ago, we were traveling because we went to Andrew's brother's for Thanksgiving, and I slept on a couch when we visited. And even just waking up and folding my blanket and putting it on the edge of the couch so that then the couch was free for people to sit there. It's not like I just left the pillow and blanket and went about my day. Even though it's not making the bed completely, even just like tidying it up and saying, like, okay, I'm putting the blanket away now, we're done sleeping. Another core pillar of my morning routine is liquids and hydration, just getting some things into my system, waking myself up. Personally, I am a big water drinker. Obviously, if you guys know, I am basically never not without a thermos of some kind or a water cup. So I do like to make a point to go fill my Stanley at the start of the day, for example, and make sure that I start drinking water basically as soon as I get up. Just kind of like to rehydrate myself after sleeping. And then if caffeine is something that you look forward to when you wake up as well, then wake up and drink your coffee. Ideally, it is better if you are able to eat something first or delay your caffeine intake. Drinking a lot of coffee on an empty stomach, maybe not the best thing, but I also need to be realistic. Like for me, that is something that gets me up in the morning. So I'm not going to not have my coffee when I wake up. But if I have a second cup, I will usually try to delay it for a little bit later in the morning or make sure that I have it after I eat breakfast, which is what I did today. Another big thing that always helps me wake up that I consider one of my core morning routine pillars is a simple skincare routine. It doesn't need to be overly complicated. If nothing else, I really recommend just a simple moisturizer and some sunscreen before you start your day. Those are two things that I am always putting on my face. If you want to linger a little longer or add one or two other small things to that list, I personally like doing either an eye cream or a cooling eye balm. Sometimes I'll also do the eye patches that I keep in the refrigerator. Just something nice and cooling to help me wake up. And also, if I didn't sleep super well or I have any, kind of puffiness or under eye bags, so to speak, I do feel like that helps me feel a bit more refreshed and a bit more soothed in a sense. So even if I wake up tired, I don't have to look like I'm super tired. And I also like to do a simple serum in the morning. And the ingredient that I usually try to use at the start of the day is vitamin C. Vitamin C helps with elasticity, keeping skin nice and bouncy and hydrated. So typically what I do is my eye cream first, a vitamin C serum of some kind, a light moisturizer, and then I finish off with sunscreen. And then my last core pillar in my morning routine is what I'm just calling a little bit of stimulation. Anything else you can do to wake up your body that's not just scrolling on your phone. In fact, really the only phone activity that I would recommend is like the New York Times game apps. I like to do the Wordle in the morning to kind of wake up my brain. I used to like to do the mini crossword, but I saw that's subscribers only, so paused on that for now. Or something like Duolingo. I'm also currently in a fight with Duolingo because I keep getting these talking challenges or talking prompts on the app, and I'll say the word perfectly and it like won't hear me properly and it'll correct me and say the same thing that I just said. And I don't feel like it's really productive at this point. Like I think I know as much Spanish as I'm going to need to know to get by. So I'm taking a little break from Duolingo right now. But like if you have a streak or if that's something that's important to you as a start of your day, I do think that doing it first thing in the morning is an easy way to ensure that you can keep the streak going in a sense. And this may look a little different for you too. Maybe it's red light therapy, maybe it's journaling, maybe it's stretching or meditation. Meditation is the one that I really struggle with. And if you were wondering if being a morning person means you have to get up and meditate every day, for me, that's not the case. Meditation, I just think, is really hard. If anything, every once in a while, I like to either go on my Peloton app and they'll have a little like morning meditation, like a 5-minute thing that I might try, or sometimes I'll go on YouTube and do more like a visualization where someone is just talking through really calmly and trying to help you get in a good mindset. I find that a little bit more helpful than straight up just like staring at a wall, not doing anything. And again, most of these things can be done in under 10 minutes. Like my red light mask, I do a couple of times a week for no more than 10 minutes at a time. You could even meditate for 2 minutes, stretch for 2 minutes, anything really to just help wake up your body a little bit. Okay, so now I want to talk about rotating morning routines for different vibes, because I am a big proponent of having multiple morning routines, because typically for me, one morning, one routine where I get up and do the same exact thing every day is just not always realistic with the way life is sometimes. If you remember in the Barbie movie, like every single day they would wake up and that same song would play and they would wave at each other and they would go down their slides and they would cook breakfast and then they would leave their house. You're not a doll. You're not a robot. You're a person who has different things happen to them every single day. Mornings can depend, for me at least, I know they can, whether it's a weekday or a weekend. Maybe it's a really busy season of life. Maybe it's a really slow season of life. Maybe you have crazy weather. Maybe you have weather that is really peaceful and pleasant. That changes things too. Your energy can vary, your mood can vary. There are so many variables just because of the course of how life works that it would be kind of naive to just pick one perfect morning routine and make sure that you execute it the same exact way every single morning. So I would say, honestly, think of your morning routine almost more of like a menu than a rule book, so that you can open it each day and kind of choose what works best depending on what type of day it is. So I'll give you guys a couple of examples of morning routines that I personally live through on different days. I think probably my favorite morning routine is the creative morning. So what you may be doing when you first wake up on a creative morning could involve reading, journaling. I also just recommend generally like creating before consuming, even if that just means doing a little dream journal, like writing down what you dreamt about last night, or jotting down just any thoughts you have in the morning, or thinking of one new idea for something that you're working on before you start scrolling and immediately consuming other people's lives, other people's content. And when you think about the vibe, picture like slow, quiet, cozy. For me, this is how I ideally like to start a work from home day, where I want to feel inspired and I want to feel that creative energy. Okay, another type of morning routine is an active morning. So what you might be doing on an active morning is for the days that you wake up and you really feel like I'm up and at 'em and I'm ready to go after it and have a great day. Maybe you will be doing a Peloton ride. Maybe you're going to go for a walk. Maybe you're going to stretch. Maybe you're going to do a strength workout. Maybe you're even just going to like tidy up the apartment just to get yourself moving. I feel like the vibes here, like I said, are typically good for days where you already wake up and feel ready to go. But sometimes active days can also be sneakily helpful for when you wake up feeling really drained, and the action can help give you that jolt of energy back to then be able to move through the rest of your day at a more baseline energy level if you wake up feeling like your energy is depleted. Some days during a busy season of life, you just might want to wake up and be as productive as possible, just like unstoppable, checking things off the list. And I call that the productive weekday morning. Some things you may find yourself doing on a day like that is you get up, you make the bed, you do your quick skincare, you do coffee and a simple breakfast that you can make really quickly, no excuses, and you start to glance at your daily agenda and slot out exactly what you want to get done that day. They do say that writing things down, and I do think that writing with pen and paper versus typing on a computer is even a better way to really commit things to memory and make sure that they actually get done. But I am a Notion girly, as you guys know. I love being digitally organized. So whatever the case is, however you like to plan and organize your day, picture the vibe for the productive weekday morning to be just like checking lots of little things before you're even out the door, so you can kind of start your day with that momentum that we talked about before, so that you can really continue to build on that and have a better day ahead. Another one of my favorite morning routines is the weekend reset morning. For me, weekends are sometimes a little hard to distinguish from weekdays because I wake up with all the same instincts of like, okay, I want to like make sure that I reply to Instagram comments and I want to create stuff and I want to be productive. And for me, having more of a differentiation from how I start my day on a weekend has been really helpful for me as someone who's self-employed to be like, no, this is the weekend now. So let's not just like dive right into work first thing in the morning unless there's something really, really pressing that couldn't wait. So maybe on a weekend, you are sleeping in a tiny bit later, but maybe not too much later to try to keep that consistent wake up time as much as you can. Maybe you have a longer, more detailed skincare routine. Maybe you're throwing in a clay mask or a sheet mask or something else that makes you feel good. Maybe you're having a brunchier breakfast or something that feels just like a little more fun or special than a weekday meal. Maybe you're doing extra reading and you're doing deep cleaning, you're doing errands, anything that makes you feel like you are taking advantage of your day off in a way that feels best for you. And for me, on a weekend morning, the vibe is just like taking my time more, savoring things that I really enjoy and what I choose to do on my off day. And then there is also the travel morning. So this one I obviously only reach for when I'm traveling, but what I try to do when I'm traveling to maintain some semblance of togetherness and order with the morning routine is really just to stick to those core pillars that I already talked about. Consistent wake up time, being hydrated, easy skincare, doing all of those things just like in another environment. And the vibe is like an on the go version of what you usually do. So if you want to get up and caffeinate, but you're traveling, maybe you can get up and walk to a new local coffee shop that you've never tried before. I personally do like to know, though, when I'm traveling, where my coffee is coming from in the morning and what my meal is going to be. It just helps me know what's ahead. If it's somewhere we need to like drive to or walk to, it helps me work backwards to say, okay, then I need to be ready by this time to make sure we leave at this time. It's just really helpful for me to plan ahead and like also just know where my next meal is coming from. And I feel that when I'm traveling at all times as well. Like I'll always try to, especially coordinate with Andrew if we're traveling together. If it's like, okay, our flight is at this time, are we planning to eat before we leave or do we want to get a meal at the airport? Which Andrew tends to be more spontaneous than I am, and he doesn't need to plan these things out as much, which is a trait about him that I really respect and admire. But I simply am not like that. I really just like to know like what the plan is and what I can expect coming up. And again, if you know that that's something that's going to stress you out in the morning, then look into it and make a plan and make a suggestion for someone who you may be traveling with. So for me, because I know I'm like that, typically I'll try to look into like, oh, I see there's a coffee shop here. Like I would plan to probably get something there in the morning and communicate that to whoever I'm with because I just know that's how I am. That's again, like I said, kind of one of my core pillars that is really helpful for me to start my day on the right note to know. And I think that communicating your core pillars to, again, whoever you live with or who you may be traveling with or who you may be seeing on the weekends and just keeping people in the loop with where you're going to be and what your expectations are is really helpful just to make sure that people understand where you're coming from. And again, having these couple of different morning routines to rotate between, I know for me, it helps me feel like I'm not locked into any one thing and that I'm not living like a groundhog day every single time that I wake up. And it really just adds that nice little variety to my routine. I am also a big believer that your routine can and should adjust with the seasons. So maybe for your fall morning routine, you are waking up a tiny bit later because the sun is coming up a little bit later than it did in the summer months. And maybe you're putting some cinnamon in your coffee or you're going for a nice crisp walk in the morning. I also think that that makes things more fun to lean into the seasonality of whatever's going on in the world right now. I'm recording this episode in December, so it's full swing holiday season. And today I drank my coffee out of my Fa La La mug. And you know what? It made me happy and it spiced up the morning routine a little bit. So, how can you experiment your way into the right routine or right routines and figure out which ones you want to add to your morning menu? I really do believe that trying out different sequences and trying to prioritize different things is the best way to figure out what makes the most sense. So, maybe you have typically worked out after work. Maybe for a week you want to try working out in the mornings and see how you feel. If you hate it and you're dreading it, maybe that was a sign that it was meant to be at the end of the day as you originally thought. But if you've never tried it before, this could be a chance to experiment with that and say, you know what, I actually felt so much better at the end of the day, knowing that I didn't have to, come home from work and then put on my workout clothes and go for a run or go to the gym or whatever it was. So I would definitely recommend trying something for at least a week to see if you really like it or not, but to kind of keep little notes to yourself of how you felt throughout the week too, so that you know what it was by the time you get to the end of the week, because sometimes the days blur together. Sometimes it's hard to remember exactly how you were feeling. So even pulling up like the notes app on your phone and just jotting a few things down can be really helpful. And some questions you can kind of ask yourself when you're recording the process of this, like what makes you feel energized? What makes you feel rushed? Was there something that you were doing because you felt like you quote unquote should be doing it, or because you actually wanted to do it? And I also think that once you even find a couple of those core pillars within the morning routine, you can try swapping them and doing them at different times. Maybe you want to delay your caffeine intake because you find that your stomach bothers you less later in the day. Or maybe you try doing that for a week and you're a grump monster and you're like, no, no, caffeine must be the first thing when I wake up. Does your day flow better when you start out with skincare? Does your day flow better when you start out with journaling? Like, those are all little tweaks that you can make to find the rhythm and the sequence of things that works best for you. And I also just say, let it evolve. Like, we are people going through lots of different things in our lives. Your morning routine can change and grow with you. Obviously, my morning routine living with Andrew is different from what my morning routine used to be when living alone. I think it's a much more balanced and healthy routine now, for the record, than it was when I was living alone. Actually, I should clarify because I've never actually lived alone before. And I mean, I guess I never will now. I guess that ship has sailed. I should have said living with roommates in Brooklyn, which for the most part, we were all kind of like, on our own routines and schedules and stuff. We all bought like groceries separately. So in some ways, it did feel like being alone, even though I wasn't actually by myself. But again, it can truly evolve and change and grow with you. If you're in the era of life where you're living alone right now, then things could look very different. If you live in a house and you have 5 kids, things are also going to look very different. So give yourself a little bit of grace and time to explore all of the various different options and figure out what makes the most sense for you. Because maybe you have a morning where, again, you're getting everyone off to school on time, you're making sure that everyone has lunch and all these things. Maybe you have some mornings, though, where you actually do have a little bit of solo time. So maybe your morning routine starts at like 9 a.m. instead of when you first wake up. And usually the way my morning routine ends is with breakfast and the getting ready ritual. I would say that for me, I typically do wake up between 6 and 6:30, sometimes earlier in the summer months when the sun's up earlier. Lately, it's been closer to 6:30 when Andrew's alarm usually goes off in the morning. And then I probably tend to eat breakfast between like 8:30 and 10. So I don't really wake up that hungry. If I ever was, I would probably try to have like fruit or a granola bar or something quick just to start out. But when it comes to quick and easy ideas for breakfast, I have a few now that I kind of repeat throughout the weekdays, especially, that I like to just have on hand. One is a bit more fresh and fruity. I either will do like a yogurt parfait, or I always joke with Andrew that like the smoothie bar is open between Memorial Day and Labor Day. So during the summer months, I will do like frozen berries and some yogurt, orange juice, spinach, and a banana, and put it in a blender and make us smoothies. But December vibes, again, like things can change with the season. I don't want a smoothie right now. Okay. I had my yogurt parfait this morning and it was still fresh and fruity, but it wasn't like about to give me brain freeze like a smoothie in December would. One that's really, really boring, I think, but is quick and easy and also healthy for me is an oatmeal bowl. So even just like the instant oatmeal packs, they're so stupid easy. They take literally 1 minute in the microwave. I personally like the Quaker Oats maple one. And then what I do is I will add in a banana. So I'll like slice up the banana and throw it in. And then I'll also add 2 scoops of peanut butter just for a little bit of protein. So those are 2 of my kind of like weekday favorites, I would say. And then on the weekends, I love the Trader Joe's breakfast burritos. I've talked about them before on here, the chicken sausage breakfast burritos. I think that was actually one of the first episodes of the podcast I recorded. I'll have to go look back, but I'm pretty sure it's episode 3 or something. So I will link that in the show notes if you haven't had a chance to listen to that yet. Also, sometimes like an avocado toast, or I'll make like the chicken sausage breakfast sandwiches where I get those little chicken sausage patties from Trader Joe's too. And then I do an egg and an English muffin. And, if I'm able to pop out for a little bit on a weekend, I also can't resist a breakfast sandwich. So in Hoboken, I go to a place called O Bagel, and I usually just get their bacon, egg, and cheese on a plain bagel. And that is a very satisfying weekend meal for me. And then as far as the getting ready ritual, some days, like I said, I wake up and I'm like, today is going to be a cozy admin day. So I wake up, I do my skincare routine, I change, and then it pretty much just stops there. But if I'm getting ready, like I did today, I like to bring my coffee over to my vanity and I'll kind of do a getting ready routine where I'll either listen to a podcast or maybe I'll watch a YouTube video. I like background noise. I like things entertaining me while I am doing other tasks personally. Or even if you don't want to listen to other people talk, even just putting on some music to set the mood for the day. I feel like music for me is a really big mood indicator. If I'm listening to really like sleepy, quiet music, then I tend to like stay half asleep. If I'm listening to like fun poppy music that makes me want to dance, like that definitely helps me wake up more. So yeah, I like to bring my coffee or matcha over to my vanity. And the other big thing for me is to get dressed every day. And again, maybe I'm not getting dressed in like something super fancy or structured or whatever it is, but even today, like I got up and I put on this sweater that I'm renting from Nuuly right now. If you're watching on YouTube, it's very cute and purple and striped. And I just have a pair of black leggings on down below, and I've got my little socks and a slipper on. So this is a very like cozy, comfortable work from home outfit. But the big thing is that I changed out of my pajamas. So I am in a new outfit. I have my hair and makeup done. I'm here, I'm alert, I'm working, and I'm ready to take on the rest of my day. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Please leave a comment if you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on Spotify. Let me know what you thought. Also, please don't forget to leave reviews for the podcast. You can rate the podcast 5 stars on Spotify or on Apple, wherever you're listening. It truly, truly does help the show. It helps get me in front of more people and have the podcast recommended for people who may stumble upon it. I hope you all have a great rest of your week, and I will talk to you in the next episode.